I didn't grow up religious. My parents' idea of church was brunch with extra pancakes. But when I met Mark, I fell in love with his calm, his certainty, and yes, his faith. He was on the church tech team, always the guy who knew which cable to plug into which dusty port. He invited me one Sunday, and I rolled my eyes, but went anyway. That day felt like being welcomed into a warm living room, coffee in the lobby, choir harmonies, and an older couple who squeezed my hands and told me they'd been praying for a girl exactly like you for Mark. 6 months later, he knelt in a park under a canopy of fairy lights and asked me to marry him. We cried, we posted the photo, and when I said I wanted to do premarital counseling, he beamed. Pastor Daniel does it all the time, he said. He's like a second father to me. The first meeting went fine. Pastor Daniel was the handsome kind of 45, the kind that looks like a trusted news anchor. He asked about budgets and chore charts, about kids and how many. He prayed in a voice you could bottle and sell, smooth as honey. The second meeting, he suggested splitting up for a session to get individual perspectives. I didn't see the harm. Mark sat in the lobby with a paper cup of coffee while I followed Pastor Daniel into his office. He closed the door softly. Sometimes, he said, women carry burdens they can't share with their partners yet. Tell me about yours. I didn't know where to start. My chest was already tight from wedding planning, from my mother making passive-aggressive comments about seating charts, from saving for a deposit while rent crept upward. I talked for an hour. He listened, nodding, eyes kind. At the end, he took my hands and prayed, "Lord, let your daughter feel safe." Tears leaked out of me. I felt seen. After that, he texted me sometimes. "How's your heart? Prayer covering for your meeting at work." He called me daughter once, then corrected it to sister. I brushed away the prickle in my stomach. He was just spiritual. That's how church people talk, I told myself. Then the texts grew warmer. "Proud of you. Your spirit is shining." "Thank you, Pastor." Not Pastor right now, just Daniel. Friends can call me that. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. "Okay, Daniel, thanks." He started suggesting we meet briefly before service to pray. We'd sit in his office while the choir rehearsed. He'd ask where the anxiety was in my body, and I'd say my chest, and he'd tell me to breathe and put his palm flat against my sternum, never pressing hard, always just there. "I'm helping you release it," he'd whisper. "Breathe." Once, my shirt shifted, and his skin brushed mine. I imagined I felt heat. I told myself I was being dramatic. When I told Mark, he smiled. He's the best. He helped my parents through their rough patch back in the day. "Do you ever meet with him alone?" I asked. "Sometimes. He's like a coach." The night the boundary finally snapped, the text came late. "Church retreat is this weekend. I've reserved extra counseling space at the hotel if you need quiet time. Your heart deserves it." I didn't reply. My stomach felt like glass. When I told my best friend Lena, she tilted her head and didn't blink for a long time. "That's weird," she said. "You know it's weird." "It's just church," I said. "It's a man inviting you to a hotel," she said. "Let's not pretend words don't mean what they mean." I laughed it off. I showed up at the retreat anyway. The hotel was a budget place with fake plants and lemon water at the check-in table. Couples shuffled in with pillows and Bibles. Mark had to set up the soundboard, so I ended up alone in the lobby. I told myself I was being ridiculous. At 10 p.m., a text. Room 402 is open for prayer if you want to release your anxiety. No pressure. I looked up. The elevator chimed. I thought of all the phrases I'd heard in the last months. Covering, release, surrender, draped like lace over things that felt too intimate. My hand shook. I took a breath, slid my phone into my purse, and walked to the front desk. "Hi," I whispered. "I'm with the church retreat. Room 402? Is that one of our reserved rooms?" The clerk glanced at the screen. "Yes, under a Daniel P. Do you need a key?" My ears roared. "No," I said. "Thanks." I sat on the lobby couch and watched the elevator open and close. At 10:12, Pastor Daniel stepped out. His hair was damp. He had no Bible in his hands. He didn't see me. He was looking at his phone, typing. I waited until he rounded the corner, and then I ran to the elevator and jammed the 4. When the doors slid open again, a woman in a white blouse slipped out, eyes cast down. She was one of the choir soloists. She didn't see me either. I went back to our room and sat on the carpet. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rationalize. When Mark finally came in after midnight, I couldn't shape the words. The morning, I asked Pastor Daniel for clarity. I chose a corner near the coffee urn where no one could hear. "Last night," I said, "room 402? He smiled, serene, a private space for prayer. "With a choir soloist?" I said, "alone." His smile didn't twitch. "Confidential counseling isn't gossip fodder. Be careful with your assumptions." Something cold settled in my spine. When people hand you the word assumptions like a weapon, it's because they need to cut you with it. I started saving things, screenshots, texts, the receipt I found later in the trash near the ice machine, room 402, 2 lemonades billed to the room, a voicemail from a woman I didn't know. "Thank you for praying with me last night, Pastor. It felt like more, somehow." She hung up and immediately called back to apologize and asked him to delete it. He hadn't. When I confronted Mark, he went pale. "He's just my pastor," he said. "What are you even implying?" "I'm implying he keeps setting up hotel rooms for prayer, and I'm implying it looks like a pattern." I handed him my phone with the screenshots. He scrolled, then exhaled so loudly it sounded like deflating. "You're jealous," he said finally. "He's helping people. He's helping you." "Is it helpful if it asks to stay secret?" I asked. "Is it counseling if the door locks?" He put my phone down like it burned. "If you slander him, we'll lose our community." We did it anyway, not because I wanted to burn the place down, but because I wanted a stop sign planted where 1,000 quiet yeses had been. We set a meeting with the deacons, a somber circle of men in pressed shirts and a few women who took notes with pencils. I laid out the messages, the hotel receipt, the voicemail. I didn't show them the photo I'd taken of him brushing hair from the soloist's face in the lobby because I hadn't been brave enough to take it in focus. I just talked until my voice shook. Pastor Daniel sat there, hands folded, and took the slow breath of a man about to drown and call it baptism. "These are misunderstandings," he said calmly. "I use hotels so congregants feel safe away from gossip. I've always been clear that my counseling is fatherly. If my words were warm, It's because love is warm. The deacon squeezed his shoulder. We trust your heart. I stared at the table. The women's pencils didn't move. One finally said quietly, "Perhaps best practices could be updated. Open door policies, 2 counselors in a room." "Of course," Pastor Daniel said, as if he'd just invented fences and thought them generous. "But this attack on my integrity—" "Attack?" I said, my voice unfamiliar to me. "Or accountability?" By Sunday, the gossip had congealed. I was hysterical, then bitter, then a Jezebel. People didn't look me in the eye. A woman from the prayer team hugged me stiffly and whispered, "Don't touch God's anointed." I had never touched God's anointed. He had put his hand on my chest and called it a prayer. Mark and I fought in whispers at home, like the walls had ears. I wanted him to see me. He wanted me to stop seeing what I saw. The engagement ring felt heavy, not like a promise, but like a stop sign I'd taped to my own finger. He finally said it. "I can't abandon everyone I know because you feel uncomfortable." "It's not discomfort," I said. "It's disrespect wrapped in scripture." He slept on the couch. 2 days later, he packed a duffel and left to think. A week after that, he texted, "I still love you, but this isn't the right season to marry." I stared at season and felt the absurd urge to check the weather app. Lena came over with ice cream and made me drink water. My mother, who had never been to church a day in her life, sat at my table and said in a slow voice I'd never heard, "Men who hide behind God can hide from themselves for a very long time." She kissed my forehead like I was 5. The church released a statement about ensuring safe, transparent counseling practices. Pastor Daniel took a sabbatical. I expected relief. Instead, I felt hollowed out. The group chat of church women pinged, "We're praying for both sides." Both sides. Like truth had a twin? Months later, one of the deacon's wives reached out privately. We met at a diner with sticky menus. She cried as soon as the waitress left. "I didn't speak up," she said. "I should have. My niece. It happened to her, differently, but it happened. I'm so sorry." I wanted to be gracious. I wanted to smack the table. I wanted to be soft. I was tired. "Thank you," I said, because there weren't any right words. Mark and I never found our way back. He married a girl from the worship team a year later. My Instagram thumb slipped, and I liked their photo before my brain could stop it. I disliked it quickly, then sat on my bed and laughed until I couldn't breathe. The sound scared me. Here's what I know now. God isn't a hotel room key. Faith isn't a man with perfect hair and a soft voice. Love is not being told you're crazy for recognizing smoke when the room is filling with it. If there's a comfort to be found, it's in the way the truth holds steady, even when communities tremble around it. It's in Lena's hand, squeezing mine under the table while the deacons nod at each other like bobbleheads. It's in my own voice, finally saying no and surviving the echo. I still pray sometimes. I pray like a woman talking to the open air, honest and barefoot. No titles, no locked doors, Help me, I say. Help me see clearly. Help me set my own boundaries. Help me not confuse warmth with fire. And when people ask me why my engagement ended, I don't unpack the whole suitcase. I say, because I read the prayer messages. If they want to understand, they will. If they don't, their eyes go glassy and they change the subject. Either way, I'm free. The hardest part was letting the good memories stay good without letting them rewrite the bad. There were real smiles once, real kindness from people who meant it. There was also a man who used sacred language to unlock doors he shouldn't have been near. Both truths can live in the same room, and I can choose which one I sit next to. I haven't gone back to church. Maybe I will, somewhere smaller, where the pastor's wife preaches as often as he does, where counseling happens with the door open, where nobody flinches when you say the word boundary. For now, I make pancakes on Sunday like my parents did. I light a candle and call it worship. I call my mother and tell her I love her. I text Lena, brunch. She texts back, hallelujah. And when the flame by the window flickers, I don't pretend it's a sign. I just enjoy the light.